Hello from the other side. Welcome to Total Disclosure. My name is Ty, and I am the host and creator of the show. I want to start off by saying thank you to every single person listening and watching on your chosen platform. Remember to go above and beyond by following and rating the show. It's free and it tremendously helps us with getting to new audiences and helping with our algorithm. You can also help support the show by joining our membership on either Anchor or YouTube. For as low as the price of a cup of joe every month, you could be listening to ad-free content, gaining early access, and getting a yearly gift. Making this show is a passion, however, it isn't cheap. And this is how we keep the show free for you, the listener. Thank you in advance. Now let's get the party started.
Making a blanket statement to cover the entire UFO phenomenon over the past 20 years.
Welcome back to Total Disclosure. Again, my name is Ty, and I'm the host and creator of the show. Today, we're doing something a little different. We don't usually go live on Sundays anymore, as the podcast does come out today. But I have so many interviews and so many people booked for the next couple months that I figured, why not ask Old Vet or Shane to come on today so we could do a little treat in lieu of upcoming UAP hearings this week. Again, I was gonna go live for them, but every single UFO person and their mother seems to be doing exactly that. So I'm not exactly sure. I might just watch, take notes, and do a show after. But we're going to be talking about that and so much more today as we bring in our special guest, Shane Frakes of the U.S. Air Force, who is a veteran and writer for the Roswell Daily Record, which is now, I mean, it's a legitimate, it's still a publication all these years later. Which
Still
I can't even
publication.
believe.
Hey, all these years later, and who would have thought? I'm going to tell you now. It started at Roswell, the UFO crash retrievals. It's going to end there too with Toby, me, and John. So
hell yeah! And we're also joined by the lovely co-host Tom, aka Cortex Zero, aka Atomic Thomas, aka other nicknames. I don't know, but you're muted again, Tom. But we'll get you in there in a minute. Actually, you're just kind of sounding like the microphone might not be connected correctly. But Shane, while he's getting that sorted out, listen, I've been interacting with you on Twitter for like a long time now, and I've been meaning to have you on because you're so knowledgeable. You've been in this game for a while, and your life seemingly changed after your own experiences. So not to make you go through it all again, but maybe you can start out with like a brief overview of who you are and how you got into all this.
All right, right on. All right, my name's Shane Frakes. So about 2000, I think it was 2001, I got to my first duty station September 9th, 2001. My actual first day of active duty was September 11th. Ooh. And then after that, I did 3 tours. I'm decorated, left 2010. I got pretty sick, ended up a homeless junkie. PTSD had taken me out. So spent quite a few years sick. And wounded warrior, my wife, family kind of got me back on my feet 2017. And then, I continued to take care of my mental health and stuff. And then 2020, I left, I think it was the last time, and the pandemic had happened. And I live in Yakima Valley near Hanford Nuclear Site. So,
well, real quick,
go ahead.
I do like that you're, mental health advocate, because I am also a recovering alcoholic. So I know the struggle of addiction. I mean, alcohol was like my main thing, but anything I could get, I would do. So
pretty much,
I struggled for years, just doing, just being the bottom of the barrel kind of person, not a contributing member of society. Real quick question. Did Did your tours have anything to do with it?
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, because
Didn't figure that out till a lot later. Particularly my first tour in Pakistan.
yeah,
So it was 2000,
unfortunately,
2002. I got a Decker. That's the one. Let me just say, all I did was my job, but sometimes it was crappy to do it under certain circumstances.
yeah,
So that's where, I got a decoration for valor for that. And then I got, achievement medals for all my other stuff. Right. So I was 34 when I chose to walk away from my family, become a fentanyl addict and meth addict because I was that sick.
yeah.
So yeah, it really messed
Unfortunately,
me up. And enough therapy later, which I'm an advocate like you, I know kind of where and what it was, and it was Pakistan. I
yeah,
was a young buck thinking
you'll
nothing
conquer
could
the
kill you,
world. Yeah.
so you put yourself in situations that you probably wouldn't, knowing that lots can kill you.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
One thing the military, I think they need to do a better job because they acclimate. So the first thing they'll do is break you down and build you up. And that's to get you in, that mindset. Like you're going to be here, you need to follow orders, but they don't acclimate you to the real world afterwards, bringing you back.
there you go. So
So
that's a good point. I'm going to point out this. So Sebastian Junger wrote a book called Tribes. He also wrote a book called War. And there's also what's the one about the well, it doesn't matter. Tribes basically talks about what you just said. When we leave, you go from this powerful connection, socially connected in a way that some people have never been their entire lives, like even with their
yeah,
families. You got people beside you, behind you, in front of you that will die for you and for the same reason. Then they take those people and they say, "Hey, thanks. Go." And when they go, going from that to a disconnection, even if you go to a work job, it's not the same.
Nope.
People have gripes, they complain, and all you can think about is that, right? And it weighs heavy, particularly if you've been in combat or been around people and you realize things like that, and stressors play into it in any way. I'll say that was the part that killed me, and I constantly thought about was just, that disconnection.
Yeah.
It's just this, no matter how much you filled your life with and surround yourself, you just felt completely alone. And that's what it was.
What I hear a lot,
I tear up just thinking about it.
right?
So.
And what I hear a lot is like the work that you do in the military. It's just so pure and it's like a one-track mind. So then when you come back to the real world, it's just like everything's moving so fast, and you feel like you're in a world that doesn't understand you. So
And you take with you when you leave the stories of, man, I knew giants. So, I mean, stories like of Senior Airman Cunningham, who was a PJ who died, and then a Staff Sergeant Disney who took 3 different missions, got shot. It's like, oh, so when you leave, though, that's all you think about. The people around you, because they're still going and you can't stop.
And that's what I'm talking about is, I mean, I know that they do don't they make you like do some class to like, transition back?
Shit, that's all they do is make you do classes. I'll tell you what, they got anti-suicide class, which they got so many classes, you may even think about that shit afterwards.
Right.
It's that e-learning bullshit. See, that doesn't, and it's so hard for me. And I'm going to say I value any kind of mental health and therapy, but as a veteran whose disconnection's part of it, this remote shit sucks.
Yep. Yes, it does, because it's not a human touch. That's not human to human. No, and the whole point that we're talking about is that you need to be around people again, around civilians who don't know what you're going through. And that's really hard for some people because they, especially coming from somewhere where you get rockets and mortars going off all the time. And then everything just becomes so quiet again.
I'll tell you that.
I have much respect for you. And again, thank you for your service and for everything that you've done.
I can hear you, Tom.
Hey, what's up, man? I guess a quick anecdote on what you were saying. I can't imagine the kind of bravery that's required to put yourself into situations like that. I can say this: my mom's uncle, my great uncle Richard, a lovely, lovely, lovely guy. He was a lieutenant colonel in the Army during the Vietnam era, and he actually became a nuclear weapons inspector. So I've had a little bit of insight. I had a lot of family in service, and I've heard some things, and it's just you're a different breed, man. Honestly, I don't mean to be corny, but that's why like people like you, I consider very trustworthy, especially in this community, because when service members come forward, like Fravor, for an example, who else am I supposed to trust, right? These are the guys going up in the airplanes and fighting the bad guys, right? Like
Yeah,
these are the real Avengers.
best of the best.
They're the best of the best.
But
Yeah.
so I didn't mean to cut you off, but so
You're all right.
you can continue with the.
Well, I'll point out this too. People have one of the things that really got to me and hurt me was people have a misunderstanding about PTSD and what can cause it, right? They assume you're shooting, getting shot at. So let me put it to you this way. One of the things that I did, and it wasn't even my job. I was a fuel specialist. I did it when we were getting shot at. I didn't have to shoot at anyone. But I used to have to check fuel trucks on 6,000 gallons of fuel trucks. They used to put bombs on said fuel trucks and they would blow up off base or try to get to us on base. We'd have bomb dogs going around them. And I did this day in and day out. And I wasn't aware. It didn't bother me at the time. I did it and it affected me later. This is what I'm telling you. No one else knows about me. My wife didn't let me know this. The nightmares and stuff come from that. The dogs used to go around. Sometimes they'd sit. It'd be just a false alarm. But my job as a young airman was to climb on top and check the last spot they would put inside. Pop the top, check it, knowing that if I pop the top and it, and then you're the only one exposed with no weapons. And you're sitting up there. You have no weapons on you when you're on a fuel truck sitting up, and there's no fence, no barrier, no berm. That replayed in my head. I mean, I did it. I mean, we're there, 7-8 months every day. And this was the height of the war. And didn't bother me at all. And then later on, I got sick, right? And one of the things that really got me is the military kind of pushed me out. Mental health in the military is not the same. I kind of went in and said, hey, I don't know what's going on. Panic attacks, all this stuff.
Right.
Man, it wasn't a good thing.
Damn.
So
I know how
I
you
left
feel
and
too.
I carried
have
that
anxiety
with me, and all that ended up messing me up a little bit, which I'm all right. I'm over it. I get it. Right.
You seem like you're in good spirits.
Well,
Yeah.
one thing I noticed is this topic seems to give people that same drive, if you will. Like, I don't know if it's, I'm not a veteran. I'm like Tom said, my whole family's military. But again, I can't feel empathy because I don't know what it's truly like. But I noticed a lot of people that come back, they need something to focus on, and this topic does really good for them. It's something that drives people to keep pushing. So it seems like, this is your new thing.
I'm going to tell you this. I don't care what anybody says. This is going to sound crazy. I carried around, when I started getting better, even before my experience, all I thought about is the people I left behind. Guilt and survivor's guilt. I knew there was more of me, whatever you want to call it, girl, female, whatever. And I had no ability to do anything about it, even though I was better. But because of my experience and my platforms, because of said experience, I am able to. And it relieves me a little bit day in and day out when I can raise money for Wounded Warrior Project. Shout out, guys, Wounded Warrior Project.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Right. Do UAP Med. When I can do things that are good and give back and not be a part of the problem, it takes that much. It sounds sappy, but it's real. Because when you were living in shit, you do your best to make sure that everything around you that's in your bubble now is positive and as good as possible. Because you still have bad days and stuff. But by doing that, you're able to focus on better things and shit. I never thought I'd be a researcher, and just literally that's all I do. And I enjoy it. And I've met the best people because of it. I mean, I don't have anyone in my phone I'm not joking, that's not from UFO Twitter.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I mean, it literally saved my life, UFO Twitter did. And it sounds crazy, but if you go to my pinned tweet was basically, hey, I wasn't always a piece of shit. Suicide note, right? I was having my experience.
Oh, God.
Which I should probably get to at some point on this, right? So my experience was such, living in Yakima Valley. It started with just lights that seemed to flash. Then it went to lights that would sweep across my eye, it seemed like. Then I started seeing these biological looking things swimming across the sky day in, day out. They'd go, I'm talking all the time, everywhere I went. Doesn't matter what state, everywhere, all the time. And it'd be one direction, they'd go lower, higher, another direction. And this was repetitive. And then later I come and I'm figuring out. So Yakima Valley, most people don't know this. I'll tell you guys this. Yakima Valley is a freaking hot spot, just like other places. Like you got Marley Woods, Skinwalker Ranch. You got all these different places. Hawaii's got some spots too. But Yakima's in the back of Skinwalker's the Pentagon. There's a couple books about Earthlight theory. You know, all these other things that are about it. I didn't know any of it. I thought maybe it was because of Hanford, and maybe it was a whole mess. I even remember saying something to Patty Murray. You know, saying, hey, there's something over our nuclear sites. But at that time, when all those experiences are happening, I'm also being harassed by people around me because of said experience, possibly. I don't know. People aren't always accepting and stuff because, you know, so whatever. It was a rough time. I didn't know what UFOs were. That's not what my first thought was. I was running around telling everybody that people were following me everywhere. How crazy does that sound?
With drones. Get a little paranoid over it, too.
Oh, yeah.
I was.
A little bit.
I was very paranoid. Actually, I was very bad. It was rough.
Especially if you're smoking meth and other stuff. You real fucking paranoid.
Well, no, I can tell you this. I didn't start seeing shit until 2020, and I'd been clean since 2017.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Right. Okay.
That makes more sense.
2020, I'd been clean since 2017. 2020, I just left care for mental health stuff for the last time. And that's when I started seeing it, right? Now I was convinced people were following me everywhere. Yeah. It was still bad because someone who had mental health and ex-addict things, doesn't matter how long you've been clean, starts talking about people following you with drones. What's that sound like?
Yeah, sounds like you went backwards.
Yeah, well, so I was convinced I'm going to get this shit on camera. That's what got me into filmmaking, you know, videos, stuff like that, podcasting, camera equipment, all that stuff is because I was convinced I'm going to catch them. So I've got loads and loads of videos of orbs and high strangeness all around me that makes zero sense. And so when I talk about things, it sounds like this dude's, he probably was smoking meth. No, I don't usually talk about anything that I don't have on film. There are some things that I've never talked about that aren't because they belong to this. And now that I know they belong to this, doesn't matter how real I think they are, it turns people off or sometimes, or it makes like, oh, that dude's whacked out. Because like we were talking about earlier, I'm more of a Valet Keel, that type of, it's a wide range, wide ranging, you know, it can be dark, it can be all these different things, right? So this whole experience was going on at the same time, and it wasn't great for me. Although I could say that you can have a traumatic experience, which is why I do UAP Med. I have nowhere to dump said. My experience was such that I have traumas from said NHI. Like I go places and I look down because of stuff that happened, you know?
Yeah.
Who do you tell that? Nobody. Yep. That's why I do UAP Med. So all this stuff just kind of, you can have a shitty experience. Like my experience wasn't great, but still come out of it way ahead. Like, you know, we were kind of talking, I almost feel healed. Not that they healed me with a ray. I had something, that higher power, that focus. That's what I have. And it sounds weird, but I always tell people I went from being an atheist to agnostic, man.
Me too.
So you said you were seeing at one point biological entities.
Oh, well, so this is before I even knew of some of this other stuff, right? So I used to go in my spaces because I started out in hosting Twitter spaces.
Yeah.
Okay. Old Vet Symposium on UFO Twitter. Yeah. I started out.
You got all your links in the description.
Yeah. So. I used to do those, and I used to tell people these things that I'm seeing are moving across the sky. This is going to sound crass as hell. Either like tadpoles or sperm. They move side to side. Right?
Okay.
And I tell people that over and over. Now, fast forward to when I was in Roswell, I see E5 3 days in a row, and loads of people witnessed the same stuff I've been seeing here. On the last day, there were 7 people, and I didn't say anything, but as I'm out there, CE5, and I've never CE5. Here's what I do for CE5, guys. In my head, hey, fuckers, I'm here. That's what I do. And I don't even, because listen, in my opinion, they're connected to us at all times. So there's no talk. They're hearing what you say, whatever's going on. Well, I do that, I see my guys from here, the swimmers, clearing as day, the same exact thing. And I yell to the group, which consists of my writing partner, Toby. And I'll say that the owner of the Roswell Daily Record, her husband, family was out there. They come out there, they're watching it. And I hear them without even prompt talking about how it moves like, what was it? A fish from side to side biologically, right? That was basically the term. And so I told them, all right, it disappeared. And I said, it'll come back from a different direction and a different height. Within seconds, it does. And they're like, holy crap. And I'm like, all right. So give it a couple seconds. It'll do that again. They're like, get your camera. I said, okay. But it won't let me film it. And they kind of laughed. So I went and get my camera, which is a high-end camera equipment. I bought to film it, which it won't let me film it with. Wow. And I set it down and it disappears. There's nothing. And Toby and them are just like, and I said, you want watch, I'll put it up. It'll come back. Start walking in. I said, all right, I'm putting it up. And I walk inside and I hear Toby's daughter, there it is. And they're screaming and it's there. And this is like that everywhere. The only place I haven't seen them that I've been since 2020, and it's because I didn't look. I was at Wounded Warrior in Boston, kind of traumatic. You know, if I was there for trauma, I didn't want to deal with this, looking and seeing the shit there too, because I'm not saying it's bad. It's just, it's anomalous and ain't nobody you can talk to about it. It's doctors, government. So it's like, right. And then to be able to go places and now share it with people, just like, yeah, family. My family sees it independently now. Son, kids, my wife. So the infectious disease model's a thing. The whole Axelrod skinwalkers, the Pentagon, it's gosh darn real. I don't care what people say. It's there. And I'm going to say maybe it goes along with what Pasolka says, right? You don't notice them. When you notice them, they notice you, right?
Yes.
That kind of thing. And that's what's going on. And I spend most of my time researching it, not even that much time looking up anymore, because they're always there and they're messing with me, right? Messing with me.
Huh.
Why do you think it is that they don't want you or don't let you film them? Have you thought of that?
I think it's this. They've manipulated me to this point. Sounds crazy. I'll tell you that when Valet talks about the control system, that's what I feel like. I feel like I've been in kind of manipulated, because everything that I've seen and done has been almost like a reaction to my experiences, right? And what's going on, what I've learned, the way I learn, the things that I kind of fall into. Some of it doesn't make any sense without these guys kind of flipping me along. And it sounds crazy to say, but I don't have a problem saying it. Makes zero sense to me. And synchronicities may be synchronicity to some people, but it looks pretty controlling to me. Like from this point, as I'm going along, I remember talking to Toby. Okay, I'll give you guys something. So we went to Alien Con as press. And after that, I had planned to go to Roswell. We're writing for the Roswell Daily Record. One of the things we're covering, we've got 2 banging articles coming out. One of John Burroughs' article first, right? Well, it's about after effects, and you guys are going to be blown the hell away by what the government does know. And let me just put it there. Second thing was crash retrievals, specifically Roswell incident. Well, Toby and I did our due diligence. We found someone that's never talked about anything, right? And we've been going along investigating and kind of confirming stuff here and there. And so that's what we're working on, is these things right here. So all of this, as we find this information, Toby and I remember sitting with him. I'm like, this sounds like information that I know, and because of all my research that I've been doing for a year, which by chance I've been banging on crash retrievals, because I just been weirdly enjoying all the crash retrieval stuff.
Yes.
So sounds familiar. And then I looked at Toby. We're in the vehicle because we met for the first time. I live in Washington, he lives in Roswell. We met in Alien Con, and I said, dude, I'm kind of worried this is going to be legit information. And he goes, well, why would you be worried? I said, because it doesn't make any sense how we got here to this point, bro. I said, it doesn't, and it spooks and it freaks me out. I said, what? And he looked, then he started realizing, he's like, yeah, It does not make any sense. I said, there's only one way. We would talk about that stuff, and privately, I discuss it a little more in depth because it almost sounds religious. Like, but that's what a control system would be. You wouldn't know it's there. It's just almost would be something like divine or, Gnostic. You can call it whatever you want to call it. But all I know is most of these steps I've taken are because of my experience and the continued experience and what's going on. And I'm doing better because of it. But I told Toby jokingly, I said, I feel like NHI dragged my ass down to Roswell to crack this shit.
And
it may very well be the case.
You never know. And because you guys, you brought the hearings again up, I want to ask you this. Do you think they're going to be anything special or just more of the towing the line, kind of, circling around from Kirkpatrick? Today, listening to Ross Coulthart and Bryce Abel, they did say that, and Astral said this the other day, that he's not under oath when he's going to be doing this. So I don't know if that's confirmed, but again, a lot of these credible people are saying that, no, he's not under oath. I don't think it matters regardless, but do you think they're going to be anything special or just, maybe move the needle forward a little bit?
I think this is going to probably be more of the same for now, more about, so this is going to be what I've gathered and picked up and kind of what I think's going on. So the balloons were all balloons. And what's going on now is we're finding out because the leak, all right, because of that leak and I'll tell you that, man, I feel for that kid. He was just being a dumbass kid.
I watched him walked into the courtroom.
I know he was just being a dumbass kid and not in that job. But anyway,
because it was at Seaport courthouse, and I was literally there at the time. I didn't even realize what I drove into because I had to go to work down there. I fucking pull the corner around and there's just news crews lining the streets, and I'm like, what the fuck is going on?
Oh, you were in it.
Yeah, someone goes, oh, that kid that leaked the shit, he's getting arraigned today. And I parked the car, called my boss, and I'm like, I'm done. I'm staying here.
Yeah. So that leak, actually, they talk about days after. They didn't know what the sensors on some of these were. And also, there were balloons during Trump that no one talked about. It just happened.
So that is
not a political thing. It's a security thing, right? And I think this is more of a, hey, this is what we got. This is what we found. I wouldn't expect, I'm not saying there won't be, because I don't know. I'll say that Kirkpatrick, while he may be seeming like he's doing the science because of the papers and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
Remember, DOD's DOD.
Yes.
Okay. So they have no skin in the game to come forward without being forced forward. So that's why it's good to have civilian organizations doing stuff. People, journalists who take this shit seriously. Shout out to Christopher Sharp, Knapp, and Corbell. Yes. And then Toby and I at the Roswell Daily Record, which is so cool because we're probably the only ones that it doesn't matter if it's taboo. Abduction. If we got things that we can put legitly, we do, and we will. And because of the subject we know, it's having people like that force his hands, being able to reach out, that have all these different things, people that hold spaces, podcasts, because there is no pros on this topic. There's no professionals. That's why Lou he said, burn ufology down. It wasn't everyone in here sucks. It was literally, there's no rhyme or reason, no rules, no structure. So
yeah, you can't get a degree in it.
Exactly. So it's us. It's literally creators, people who research, freelance. No one's really getting paid. Well, some people now maybe. But,
career? Oh, yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, I can tell you. I never thought in my life that I would be broke from UFO shit. That's all I do is spend money on books and traveling to, stuff like I put so much in podcast equipment. We all do. No one gets paid up in here. And it's so crazy to see some of the people. And I'll tell you guys this, and it's some of the people that are at the top, and I don't mean top like military wise, whatever. Yeah. But I mean, that
like leaders
do conventions consistently, and you can tell that literally it's not that's their job type stuff, right? Who cares? A big deal, you think, oh, that's fine. But if you want the subject, you want disclosure, you need to start parsing who you're getting your information from, right?
It's
You need to
difficult.
start taking those filters, applying them, and saying, "Let me look here. He did say that, so I can kind of trust what he's, that kind of thing, right?"
Mhm.
I wish
Yeah.
people would do that more because I see loads of people being led astray by different things. And I'm not telling you I'm some kind of guy. What I'm telling you is I know so much about this subject that I know I don't know shit about this subject.
Like
It's
quantum physics.
ridiculous.
That's true. It's like if you think you
That's so
know,
true.
you
Yeah.
already don't know. So you know what
Well,
I do? I just I look at, and I think Ty does something similar. Ty, I don't mean to speak for you either, but I get the vibe. You kind of look at all the big names, right, and the people who are putting out information. So like I'll read something from Dolan, or then I'll go and watch Corbell and Knapp, and I kind of just look at everybody, and and I take all of the most important points, and I'm like, all right, what do I really feel resonates the most with me? And then I pull that stuff out and I focus on it, but it's never definitive. You can never just say I know just from reading a book or listening to a podcast, unless you go out and you're doing field work, or you're on the ground, or you're talking to witnesses face to face. You can never truly say that you know something. So that's why I'm always in a state of flux, or I'm like, not
Mhm.
like a UFO agnostic, but it's like there are very few things that I can sit here and say I know or that I believe. It's always I lean towards or I think. You know what I mean? It's kind of in that vein.
yeah.
I
I mean,
agree.
it's the one subject where, I mean, we're literally talking about something that is literally unknown, unidentified, you
It's
know?
so exciting though. It's like the most
Yeah.
exciting thing in the world to me, honestly.
Oh,
It
of
is.
course. It's the
It blows
biggest
my
story in
mind.
human history, and that's why, like,
There's
what
something
you do,
beautiful about it.
yeah, what you do, Shane, with the Roswell Daily Record, I think it's work that needs to be done. And
Yes.
that all started from you seeing these things in the sky that you
Yeah,
couldn't explain.
it
You
blows
didn't
my
know what the fuck they
mind.
were, really.
I still pinch myself. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, the stuff that I'm doing now, it's way better than the stuff that I used to do. I never thought I'd be doing any of this. And I still kind of slap myself. And then to think, because the reason's just like, that makes no sense, right? But I'm grateful. And the people that I've met because of this shit, I got best friends now, people that care whether something and I didn't have that outside of my family unit for a long time. Because when I was sick, all I had was literally the people in the system. And most of those shit, I just lost another friend. And that, they die out from OD, suicide, all these different things, right? And so I hadn't talked to, and that's was part of my problem during the pandemic. I don't really talk to people or go out and see people because of that, but now I do. So it's wild, but I like my weirdos, these kind of weirdos.
We like you too, man.
Mm.
So to pull back a little bit, I want to ask you something about to follow up. Do you think that the new protection for people who worked inside these special access programs, the people who worked with secret clearances, the protections that they're garnering, and being able to talk with Congress, do you think that will help to shed more light on these legacy programs and crash retrievals, since that's what you're digging into right now?
No,
No.
here's what I think. So
Damn.
whistleblowers and shit's gonna happen. It's already happened. What I've said is this: even at Alien Con, Jay Stratton and I'm kind of put it out there like he basically said they may know, we may have people know, it may not be a black budget anymore. We have checks and balances on the program, but you may never know. It says nowhere that they have to decimate to the public this. It literally just says has to tell Congress type stuff. So me and Toby have been working that, reaching out literally and calling them out. Hey, what's in there you could protect the country and still verify for us, but there's nothing in there. So you need to reach out to your congressman. We had a tweet about it and all this. Like, we've been trying to get quotes. What kind of transparency shit's going on? What if they went in and said something, said, yeah, we got stuff, and all they had to do was, oh, they didn't say nothing.
Yeah.
They didn't break any laws because the whistleblower's there. Everybody's protected. They know it's no longer black budget, but we don't.
And
That's
I'll say
no go
that.
for me.
Listen,
Pisses
I
me
get
off,
it.
honestly.
I get it if you need to protect people, places, sources, people, and
Yeah,
things.
I respect
But
that.
that doesn't. So say we found out that there are crash retrieval programs, right? And there's material. Okay, you don't need to exactly tell me where you got it, how you got it, and who told you it was there. I don't need that. But I would like to know that you do have these programs, they exist, and you have retrieved shit. Like, that's not too much to ask considering we pay all of your fucking salary. You
They
know,
apparently think it
as
does
citizens,
cross
at
the
this
line.
point, I feel like they're hindering the advancement of human society, of the human race.
Yep.
And I don't know what to do about it. I don't think anyone truly knows
Yeah, how do we
how
get
we're going
them
to
to
meet
just
them.
shove it out to us? Like, how can we make it so that the level of transparency is as close to 100% as possible? Like, if you don't think, because Ty asked you if you thought that that protection would lead to something significant on our end as the public, what's going to do it if that doesn't?
Independent people by that, I'm talking about news, whatever you want to call it. They're investigating and having these people who will feed them, give them, then making Congress take notice because the country's taking notice. And here's an example. Regardless if the balloons were balloons, that was awesome for us. The reason being is Americans are particular about shit in their skies, regardless of what it is.
Yeah.
And knowing the fact that there was something that was going unknown, that means that was tweaked. And I kept telling people it's all balloons, but it's still good news. And on top of that, Christopher Mellon had said in one of our articles, he quoted as saying, it's kind of going back to Roswell. They're looking for, there's an interagency thing now, not just Arrow. There's a whole, they have the authority to pick up paperwork from 1945 on from any organization if they want it. Black budget on, right? Whatever. And they were looking at the Roswell incident, paperwork, stuff like that. And I know there's a lot of shit out there that exists. And I know Corbell and Knapp talk about on their podcast, Weaponized, that crash retrievals for a reason. They've known for a long time before the Roswell incident, which the Roswell incident is it's a flap, a UFO flap that took place in 1947, July, right? But the thing is, we know the Roswell incident is one event. That's just because the guy who was in charge of the general at Walker jumped the gun. Just because you're general doesn't mean you know shit. We had crash retrievals before that. Matter of fact, there were multiple incidents in that area within days or weeks of each other, which is wild. So
anything that you can talk about with that? Anything more that you know about the Roswell incident?
I'll say that if you want to get as close to possible as the Roswell incident, Corso's book is amazing, but there's an actual manuscript that's just by him, completely unchanged, because there's stuff that's in the book.
In the book that was changed.
Yeah, there's stuff in the book that's not. Go back, read that. Well, I'll tell you that night vision, that's a thing. I can tell you that a lot of that in there is real. And if you really want to hit the nitty gritty, there's 2 books if I want to go on crash retrievals that I recommend.
Yes,
and,
please.
There's UFO Crash Retrievals, volume 1 through 7 by Leonard Stringfield. You can get it for like $90 because it's pretty big and it's thorough. Yeah. But there's also another book, very rare, $280. But I found it's still on Google Play, marked down from $20 to $9.99. It's called Magic Eyes Only.
Yes.
Okay, it's $9.99.
Oh yeah,
yes.
It's an important book. Read that book. But
so for anyone looking, it's Magic, MAJIC.
Yes,
yeah, I just
right.
say that.
And don't do what I did. And John, we literally purchased the book, and then I found that, and I'm like, shit.
You fucking dropped $280.
Yeah. So
try to resell it or something. I don't
know. And that is all good information, and I'll say that again, you got to parse what you hear and things you from certain people and all that, and anything that Toby and I ever put out, especially it's in our paper, an article, it won't be willy-nilly. So
thoroughly researched,
especially on this stuff. And that's what's cool. Like, you've got people who are journalists, right? I'm not a journalist. I'm literally a researcher who is writing about it. So I know quite a bit about it. I'm still learning the reporter writing about it, which is kind of like, what the hell? I have to ask Toby, can I say something? If there's asking him the whole newspaper writing stuff. And it's kind of wild. That's how I pinch myself. I'm like, I can't believe I'm doing this stuff, right?
Yeah, it's crazy.
And so it's nice because when people talk about things, I have the whole, oh yeah, I've read this somewhere. That's kind of how I picked up on that. Shit. When Corbell, I don't know if you guys remember when Corbell and them talked about an NHI going home with somebody.
Yes, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Okay,
Yep.
well, prior to that, I'd read Rachel's Eyes, but prior to that, I'd also seen a blurb somewhere. I can't, I'm missing it now. Somewhere, small blurb on the crash retrieval thing that said NH or Alien Gray, whatever, NHI, went home with officer. And I laughed. This was a while back, and I laughed and said, that's fucking crazy. And then I read Rachel's Eyes, like, huh. But then I heard that, and I'm like, and like you said earlier, you made that comment. That's all I was doing, reading these things, putting things together because again, there's no pros. A lot of the information's out there. The other thing is a lot of this crash shit. Imagine there's a reason that the government was putting disinfo out there. You only put disinfo out for one reason, to hide the info.
Yeah.
Knowing that, there's lots of real shit out there. Here's one. There's, for example, I can tell you, well, I'm not going to tell you where from, but like when Tom DeLonge knows what he's talking about, he's not full of shit. And I'll tell you that this is from my own investigation. Just happen to know here and a lot of that stuff elsewhere type of stuff, right? Listen, they're his books. I'd go there too. I mean, while parsed with fiction for a reason.
Secret machines and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, even Ross Coulthard is talking about Tom DeLonge lately.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, his book, In Plain Sight. I should have mentioned him as a journalist as well. Damn, I should have. Yes. Yes, at the top.
He's up there, man.
Literally, his book is one of his book as well. Hell, he talks about, here's a couple pieces of information most people, I think a couple people put together. So saw something on Twitter once about a certain megahertz that could take these things down.
Yes.
Okay? Yep. Radar. Yes. Okay. Remember radar? We talked about that later on. I learned radar. It doesn't give the megahertz for reasons here and there. Lou had talked about this here and there. Bait, all these other things, right? So I'm probably talking too much about some of this shit.
Keep going.
It's all stuff that's out there. And I found, and later on, because I kept finding multiple, here's something that one of the articles we're working on is about after effects. Shout out to UAP Med. One of the reasons I do
about if they get too close.
Here's what after effects can consist of. Yeah. Okay. So after effects could be anything, literally. So technically healing, if it could be death, it could be radiation, any of the stuff that could hurt you, but it could also be PTSD. Now, here's the way to take it. Consider it like a math problem. A lot of people have a hard time with it. So if you think UFOs are real, with most of us do, PTSD is definitely a thing.
No
the two are definitely a thing that can happen together then, because that's not a normal thing, right? It's a stressor. It's something that can shake you up. Well, let me ask you this. What doctors, I can tell you for a fact, there's not a lot of doctors you can go to talk about your UFO experience because it's caused trauma, because they'll give you medication or they'll lock you up for it, or, recommend this and other thing. That's why I do UAP Med. So it's all the stuff I do is related to this topic, and it's on my time like you guys, because there's other people out there trying to figure this shit out, struggling, whatever. Yeah, after effects, man, it's a thing. And I meant to say, this is what I meant to tell you.
I mean, look at John Burroughs. I mean, that's like the most documented case of effects from what seemingly is getting too close to one of these crafts.
Yes.
And there's no denying that the government and the military tried to stop him from getting treatment pretty much under their wallet. And they even went as far as, which I tied to the Bob Lazar part, because look, if we see what happened with John Burroughs, right, he told him he wasn't even in the fucking military when it happened. Well, you don't think they'd erase Bob Lazar's past? With a snap of their finger?
So check this out. And I'm not going to say much on it, because I'll continue with the after effects. But our article, when it comes out on John Burroughs after effects, I promise you, there'll be information there that no one's seen. It's gonna make people kind of mad, blown the frick away. I know stuff currently about all of that I've never in my. So look, the government, first of all, when they gave him benefits for said event, what do you think that is? That's kind of a soft disclosure. Yeah, we know.
Yeah.
If something so, and I got to be careful what I say. I better shut the frick up right now. But promise you this. When that article comes out, you're going to
Send
want to
that
read it.
article right over.
You're going to want to read it because we've been working closely with Burroughs, his attorney. I mean, and doing a lot of different interviews. It's been going on for 3 months now, doing something like that. And all these different things. And I'm telling you now,
Jesus.
Here's some stuff I'll give you that's out. It's actually, most people don't even have the slightest clue about it. It doesn't make sense. But so Jim Simonivan, he mentions on Calling All Beans, he talks about cohort, a group of 100 that the United States government monitors because of the phenomena, this, that, whatever, right? There's a mention. I was down in Vernal, Utah at a conference symposium, and Jim Segola from Skinwalker and all that talks about designing a device that picks up information from the phenomena for this group of 100. Okay. So fast forward, I'm doing an interview. I have someone else mention said group they're a part of. None of these people know they're a part of it, right? They don't know who else is a part of it. It's a medical thing, right? So obviously you can't talk about, it's literally after effects medical things. So they can't talk about it. None of these people, they may be a part of it. They don't know who else is a part of it unless by chance. Right. So Jim Simonivan's admitted to it. This other person has. Segola's designed a device, right? Several people, including another person source, have mentioned straight up out of that 100, quite a few, not quite a few. I don't want to oversay it. A bit have died.
Yeah. My God.
Okay.
That's something people don't want to think about.
Nope. So whether you want to consider it Havana syndrome, radiation poisoning, the phenomena, whatever they're working on, the government's taking it seriously. They've got a dang program that monitors people. This is all out there, right? And it's out there as well that these people die. Kit Green talks about that as well, right? All this is the same shit. Most people don't even realize it's the same stuff. So what's going on here? They don't want to give us disclosure, but they know there's some after effects from said stuff. So that's another angle we can force disclosure, which we're working on besides the crash retrievals in this. So
how does it blows my mind?
Yeah,
honestly, because now I'm thinking, even moment of contact from James Fox, right? Marco Cherise died from contact with one of these beings allegedly, right? Yeah. And that's a story that not many people know of. So how many other? Because you say, you're saying, or you're talking about it. You're not the first person either to talk about death from these encounters. How many don't we know about?
How many more Marcos are
I can tell you that. Here's a little secret. John Burroughs, and this is all I give you, is not the only veteran that receives benefits because of an exposure like that.
Right. No. Yep.
And it's not just one. I mean, it's a thing. I mean, so it's like it's approaching these angles, different people, and trying to force their hand any of these which ways, right? That's what it is. But it's also, I have a hard time listening to anyone that's shitty. That's my thing, right?
Yeah. Why?
You can disagree and still go about your day.
Hell yeah. And you can have a conversation with someone you don't agree with. It's fine. I do it all the fucking time.
All the time.
I do a Green Street all the time, Mick West all the time.
Yeah, I do too.
I don't agree with anyone.
I saw both of them at Alien Con.
Yeah. Dude, people are so mad Green Street was there.
Yeah, they were pissed.
How was Alien Con, by the way?
Cool, man.
Yeah.
How was the Alien Con?
It was cool. Actually, here's why it was cool, because we ended up like the handlers there, like the executives at History Channel that we're dealing with, and then at A&E, awesome people, and there's huge supporters of Wounded Warrior Project. Travis Taylor and them do a run. I mean, that's amazing shit. When I was just talking to him, I was like, you know what? That stuff makes me feel better, makes me feel less like I got to do so much.
Right.
So it's cool stuff. It was a great time because I got to meet Toby for the first time there. And then we went to Roswell. I spent like 3 weeks traveling and researching, going to the museum, all that kind of stuff. Right. And so it was super fun time, but most people don't realize that I got to have my hip replaced, my left one. I've been putting it off.
Wow.
carrying all my equipment, man. I just down for the
it's a
count pretty
struggle.
easy, like an old dude.
God. How
That's
old
a
are you?
struggle.
If you don't mind me asking.
I'm what 44 now. It's just from a my job, repetitive, doing something to my hip until finally because I used to be an addict, I don't want to get it done because I don't want shit in my body.
Yeah, that's how we are.
Yeah.
I don't even like going to the doctor, to be honest.
Yeah.
Because I think they're going to tell me something I don't want to hear, which is scary when you really get down to it.
That's why I always stay away from the doctor for that exact reason. I'm like, nope, out of sight, out of mind. But you got to be responsible at the end of the day.
I want to say hello to Hey Ocean. I don't think I've ever seen her here.
Hi guys,
Hey, Ocean,
Emily,
who's in
everybody.
our
Chat.
couple of our spaces.
So I wanted to bring something up. You're a veteran of the Air Force.
Mm-hmm.
You served from 01 to 2010.
Yeah.
Why is it that the Air Force is so quiet when it comes to the UAP situation in general? When they're supposed to be the ones protecting our skies and keeping them clear, it seems that the Navy's taking the center foot on it, center stage on it. But the Air Force is nowhere to be found. As a person who comes from that area, can you maybe give a little insight as to why they might be so quiet?
Absolutely. So check this out. Back when the crash retrievals happened, there's a CIC number, which is the whole intelligence thing back in the Army, Air Corps, whatever you want to call it, which turned the Air Force, which the Air Force is the ones that would have the crash retrievals, also the ones they're supposed to be protecting our sky. So back in the day, the Navy tried their own UFO investigated thing. Air Force put a squash on it for a reason. They have craft. They don't need anybody investigating that shit, right? Because they need to reverse engineer it. They can use it to hide their programs. Like, oh, was that the spy plane or a UFO? Oh, it was a UFO, like Doty used to do, right? This info.
Yes.
And the technology. So they were fighting the Navy. That's why the Navy was kind of all on board, and they're still fighting because they have crash retrievals. They've put them in a civilian sector, not just one place, multiple places to learn from whatever programs, these things you get from, right? And they don't need anybody else gaining from that, learning from that, knowing that. Some of it's, look, I don't know if they're 100% real, but there's a version of the Collins elite going on. A group of people who think by choice, we do not need to know some of this information because of whatever, we're not smart enough, we'll mess it up, all kinds of different things. I'm not going to go as far as saying some big religious zeal. I'm saying there's a group of people who have taken it upon themselves to make choices for this democracy, which is not how things work, which is illegal. So that's another reason. So they've got all these reasons to fight and keep fighting. And some of it, you got to understand, I'm also a patriot, obviously. I get there's some shit you don't want out there because, again, what we have done, because we're a democracy, is when we got these crash retrievals, we compartmentalized said crash retrievals here, there. So many people, only so many people touched them. And what is it? Travis Taylor talks about at AlienCon. He said, what if during the crash, there was one person put in charge of the program? He dies a second. And that's kind of how it would work, right, with these programs. So this shit's continuously going. I lost my train of thought on that. Sorry about that. Too much coffee.
Compartmentalization.
Yeah, the compartmentalization. Other countries, Russia, China, they don't. They'll just kill you. You talk, I'll kill you. So put all their scientists on it, right? So they put all their scientists. You talk, I'll kill you. What's America do? One scientist, two scientists. Don't talk about it. Show anybody. Nothing's done. Nothing's figured out. So now you got to worry. Anything you put out, they can pick up, and you're already behind.
Yeah.
So I get all of this stuff, but there's a damn way information can be given to us so that we know. Because one of my things is I got selfish reasons, and I want to know what the hell I've been experiencing, what the hell's going on, what almost drove me to suicide. I want to know for a reason, like if they take it seriously, doctors will, and that's the big point, right? Because this field is full of sick people as well. But you can't parse the real people from the sick because no one takes it seriously. Everyone's classed in the other one. So that's huge for me. And that's why I do all this shit.
You have a right to feel that way, especially after what you've experienced. And you and I won't go into detail, but you and I have a couple things in common personally that we spoke about before the show, but my mic wasn't working, obviously. So I feel for you. And then think about all the people that have suffered as a result of the truth embargo, as our friend Steve Bassett likes to call it, where people lost their jobs, their credibility. They were made fun of as if, it was like high school type stuff. You got people that have had to move away. Their careers are gone. Like the embargo on the truth of this matter needs to end, especially for those types of people where it's like they had their livelihoods like taken from them for telling the truth. Like that really gets to me. I get hot over that.
Yeah.
It really pisses me off, to put it bluntly. It does.
I can tell you that you're right. If anybody has a question on whether your government will conspiracy some of this stuff, gaslight you, ask a veteran. They do it to us all the time. I'm telling you right now, man, they do it all the time to us. They're going to obviously do it to an unaware country.
If they can do it to you, they'll do it to us. And you're the guys defending the entire country, defending them, the policymakers.
And
they're willing to gaslight.
I understand the reason, and I would do nothing to destroy this great republic, right? But it's gone overboard. Some of this shouldn't be classified. Yeah. People have died, been killed because of this. No shit. People have died, been killed, drove to suicide, all kind of what you talked about, lost jobs intentionally because they spoke about stuff like this.
And that's a problem.
Hell yeah, it's a problem.
Because when those same people find out in the coming years that this was all for not that it wasn't for a reason, but that when they find out they were being gaslit the whole time, oh man, they are not going to be happy because they basically lost their jobs, their life, their families calling them crazy. Probably ended up in a couple mental facilities.
Oh God!
Like look at Kevin Day. The guy almost fucking. I bring him up as a prime example of what happens. Yeah. Like the real consequences.
I actually interviewed him for UAP Med. He actually lives not too far from me, but on there you could see, just that's
taking a toll.
So
he's taking a toll.
Yeah,
it has.
I don't tell people this much, but he had a seizure when I was interviewing him.
Yeah, that's right.
It was fucking rough.
That's scary.
I watched him collapse through video. I called his wife. I'm like, you need to get out there now.
Yeah, I know. He's a good dude too, man. We both have prospecting in common. We both love geology and gold and platinum.
Oh,
right over here, I got 1,000 pounds of rocks.
Yeah, he loves that shit. He's always. Did he send you his
Yep.
Yeah.
Love it.
I'm sure you know.
And I'm one of those people that's like, oh, hell yeah. We got to go do this sometime together. Because up in Washington State, he's in Oregon. I like getting in the mountains and just going prospecting. I know it sounds wild, but it's another thing that I became super passionate about after my experience and only after my experience.
Yeah. Like I said, he's a prime example. But I can't wait for guys like him to be able to testify in front of Congress and really tell their story.
I do agree. I'll tell you that book that's coming out, I'm super psyched about that. People should start looking into government programs like MK Ultra and shit like that, and side programs. That's very real.
Remote viewing and all that. Oh yeah.
Do some research. I haven't gone. Astral talks a lot about. I don't know much about that. I haven't done much research about that, but I'd start looking there with all the stuff coming out.
Yeah, Astral is a wealth of knowledge in that area for sure. He's told me some things that even I didn't come across in my own research. So yeah, definitely shout out to Astral on that one. It's big stuff. It's real. That's the other thing too. Like there's still people stuck in that like mindset where they're still trying to figure out if any of this is actually happening. Like in 2018, how many different people? Like not even like from 2017 to 2018. There were so many people, credible individuals, journalists, what have you, that were like, we're past the point of trying to figure out if UFOs are real or not. We're now trying to figure out what they are, who they are, why they're here. And I imagine they already, somebody, I don't know who, but somebody already knows the answers to like maybe most of those questions.
Shout out to my boy Mike from Mind Escape, who my first documentary of it. I'm a producer, videographer, and I'm in it. I actually make the comment. I don't have to believe. I know they're here for a reason. I don't believe. When you see them, and there's no question about that, right? It's just a matter of We can argue what is here and where it's from all day.
Yeah.
But to say there's nothing going on, it's conspiratorial and it's silly. It's just silly.
It's closed-minded, and I feel like people who think that way, and I respect everyone's opinions. You can think whatever you want. You have that right. But after what I've experienced, it's sad to me because you're wasting your time not knowing what is out there around you. Like, you have a perception of the world that is incorrect, essentially.
Yeah, I know. And I see Toby asked me a question, nachos for tonight. You know me too well, Toby. And that my girl Emily, looking for some research material. So I'll tell you guys that one of the places I would definitely go for sure. Let me find it here to make sure.
While you're looking at that, I do want to say I don't know why the ads are turned on, but it won't let me turn them off now that we're live. I'm so fucking sorry because I have it on my phone and I just watch it going to ad after ad, and that's not how I like to roll. So again, apologies. I can't turn them off until we end the show. So
I'm worth the ads. So check this out, guys. Go to let me make sure it's the right address. www.cufos.org. And then check that out, man. Loads of books, articles, timeline, all kinds of great information. And I'll also
one more time, I actually want to write that down.
Okay. See these books right here?
Yep.
Those are collections of old newsletters.
You've been standing this whole time?
Oh yeah, I always stand.
I noticed that, but you know what? Sometimes I feel like I want to do that.
Yeah, my hip won't let me sit. That's the reason. But those books are collections of old newsletters.
Okay.
You can find most of those on there. These are like
what's the website again?
cufos.org.
cufos.org. Okay.
Let me make sure I spelled it right. And cufos.org. And then you can check out those books, article, loads of really good info. But like I said, people just grabbed those and they threw them in our books and they sold them. But those are all out there because they're older. Like John Keel's newsletter, was it The Anomaly? And then you got all of these are out there too. So that one there's a super good one. And I'll give you one more. People's in it. Millie, let me see if you find it. It's super good.
I love researching. So I have a giant list of resources.
I'd go to nuforc.org.
Ah, yeah, that's where I reported my sighting recently.
There you go. Check it out. Go to the database.
UFO Reporting Center. And the index is by state and everything. It's great.
Yeah, have fun. And most of these books too. UFO Bob has on his Reddit on a link to a lot of these ebooks.
Yeah.
On a drive.
Yep. I have a ton myself. If anybody ever wants to DM me on Twitter, I can send you it. I'll send you whatever you want.
So someone asked a question. Did you ever see anything in the Air Force you couldn't explain?
No, that's what's wild. Not that I'm aware of. Now, here's the thing. My great-grandfather was also my great-grandfather was a pilot, Korea during World War II. During each, he had an encounter. He writes about in his memoir book. I got to find it. A disc and a Foo Fighter, right? And never thought. I used to think he was full of shit, and I feel bad about that now.
Oh man!
Right? But no, nothing I can remember. All mine started in 2020, and it's just still rolling. So it's odd. I don't talk about it like that. I don't be like, "Hey guys, I see aliens and see them all the time." Because how wild would it to approach someone and tell them not only have you seen one, you'll probably see another one here tomorrow or something stupid.
Right. Do you think that? What are your thoughts on abductions? A lot of people tend to. I'm even one of them. I admittedly am one of them who thinks that there's a lot of stretch being done with them. Like there's a lot of people that might be not exactly telling the truth. Again, I hate to even say that because the more and more I look into certain things, the more and more I find I might be wrong. And I think part of it is that I don't want to believe they're real. But what are your thoughts on abductions in general in that whole side of the phenomenon?
Well, my thoughts are pretty dark on it. So I'll tell you this. Fort talks about it. Keel talks about it. We're property. Something else has kind of been here, but long before us, we came along. Now they also talk about hybridization, manipulation, their own programs from us. And I'll say that there's books like Masquerade of Angels, the Abduction Enigma. Then you've got The Threat. Dr. Jacobs writes multiple.
Yep,
That's why I say, yeah, so many variations of what this is. I think they're real, and I don't know. And I'll say that, shout out to Charlie Parrish, who, a director in Hollywood, right? He actually, I got to see a clip of his documentary about abduction. All I can say is this. If that gets released, I didn't even know it was a documentary. I thought it was I was watching The Exorcist. But it's real.
Oh God.
Whoa.
But he needs the funding for it. And I'm not shitting you. Me, Toby, we're just like, what? I was like, what? And I'm sitting there watching it, and I just getting those vibes. It's dark. And there's a reason it's dark, because we didn't give him permission to do whatever this is or what's going on.
But the cattle didn't give us permission. Yeah.
And regardless of what we can't make them out to be human. They may think like, we don't think there's shit wrong with splicing a freaking grasshopper, things like, you know what I mean?
I do.
So it's one of these things. I wouldn't consider them friendly until we figure out what's going on, regardless of if they appear to be friendly. Because Keel even says, when you see them, you're enchanted. Anything and everything you're seeing, interacting with, it's maybe there. There's a reason they're telling you. How many times have people said, I had an experience, they told me this was going to happen on this date, and nothing happens?
Right.
There's reasons for that.
Yeah. Really?
So many experiencers talk about dates. I can give you a playlist. Shit, you can
go
to.
And that's another. But that's part of my reasoning. Is a lot of these people come back with these like prophecies, and they don't actually come to pass.
Many.
Yeah, lots. And you want to actually, here's a cool playlist or website. Eyes on Cinema on YouTube.
Yep.
Has a whole UFO playlist. And it's literally the stuff we talk about, but usually it's interviews with the people firsthand.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of stuff like that in there. Like
tomorrow, for instance, I'll be interviewing Kathleen Martin, who's the niece of Betty and Barney Hill. And, I don't know how to tell her that I don't, you know what I mean? I don't want to say like, hey, I might not believe them, because I do, but it's like hard for me to come to terms with it. You got to be
honest about it, Ty. You got to be honest about your feelings and bring that up in a polite manner. And perhaps by doing that, she'll navigate you through what she thinks may have you gravitate in the other direction. Like I
said, I want the truth. I want the truth. That's what I want.
You know what's even darker that I think's out there? This is just me allegedly. So if alien abductions are bad and wrong, imagine if Mill Labs is right.
Oh yeah.
Did you guys hear what John Alexander said? He had a quote back. I can't remember all of it. It's along the lines that they used to put shit in people's heads.
Yeah, for anyone who doesn't know for anyone who doesn't know what my labs are, can you maybe go explain what that is?
I don't. You're gonna catch me. I don't know much because I'm just learning that. This is stuff that now I'm knowing to dig into, kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
So if somebody else wants to read what it is, I kind of got the gist over. Basically, it's our military abducted people and then putting a UFO experience in their head for psyop type reasons.
Yes.
But again, MK Ultra happened, and again, there's a book coming out that talks about. So this book that's coming out about Andrew, pay attention to that.
Are you talking about the Stephen Andrews?
Yeah, the Stephen Andrews, so the one that's Simon and Schuster one that writes to, right? About the 36-year veteran that's going through all this shit. The Havana, all
shared that the other day on Twitter, I believe.
Pay attention.
I think I retweeted it. Yeah.
Coltart was talking about it in the latest episode as well. No, so for anyone who doesn't know, it's this gentleman whose name is not Stephen Andrew Stevens or Stephen Andrews. I can't remember which one it is. It's obviously a pseudonym, but this person started with Havana syndrome or something to that degree.
Well, here's where it starts. Here's where it starts. This is where it gets crazy. As a child, in the whole thing dialogue, it talks about as a child, his dad makes a deal with the Air Force, whatever. They put him in a program, and then for that, he'll get a job later on and in the Air Force, and he does. and he developed there's some kind of psi abilities involved.
Remote viewing and
Havana, then it gets targeted. It's wild, right? But it's real. So pay attention, because a lot of that you're seeing in that book, let me put it to you this way, from different angles, if you take some of the other things that I'm talking about that are involved, if those things are real, they could very well be what's going on. Do you know what I mean? Like the child, so stuff like that happens, and I can't wait for that to come out. Seriously,
I'm really looking forward to it, because apparently, like, his father put this document together. Imagine you get handed a document from your father, or your father's dying, and then once he dies, you get handed this document that basically gives you a past that you don't fucking remember you had. You have an honorable discharge from the military, but you were never in the military, to your knowledge. That's got to be mind-boggling.
I'll tell you this.
Oh.
What's really crazy is to know that this kind of stuff is so prevalent. It's a brand new player, and if somebody is they're probably not going to end up coming around anything like that, because why would you? This shit's crazy. Everyone saw what the hell happened to frickin' anyone that comes forward and talks about this shit, right? So telling the story in there and giving us the information anyway, period. I'm grateful as frick, because again, there's a reason this book's coming out, and it sounds wild, but shit, 2020, if you had told me before any of the stuff I know now to be kind of true, I would have said there's no way.
And that's
so,
and that's like, I want to, because I was watching an interview with Ross Coulthart, and he brought something up that I kind of want to just open up to everybody. The interest from UFOs to nuclear weapons to water. Could it be that these things are future humans coming back to try to give us a message? Look at where we are right now.
Hell yeah, it could be.
Look where we're headed.
It's possible.
Right? The clock is the closest it's been to midnight in human history.
Yeah.
Aside from maybe the Cold War.
And
it's like right in that territory. It's scary.
What if they're here to witness an event or to try to stop an event?
And you're right.
Imagine being the government. If you have knowledge of that, maybe they are keeping it fucking secret for a reason, because anything they do could alter that time stream. Not in a good way.
Dr. Michael Masters talks about that. Another great guy I met.
Yeah, he's cool.
Super cool too. So he talks about that. It's a very real possibility. Look, just because our science says one thing doesn't mean we're only this far in science. If you don't believe that, you're wrong. My point is this: there's stuff we're not doing the science to learn the new stuff that's going on or to see what's going on around us. And only when we develop the tools for the woo, it's not really woo. It's there, but we don't understand it. But no one's taking it seriously, right? You got Neil deGrasse Tyson thinks it's all a joke, and Fort talks about that. He actually specifically targets academia for their bullshit papers, and they thinking they have the end all be all because of it. No, they don't go outside of that box because they're scared.
Yeah,
that's wild.
Egotistical too. Also, just while I'm thinking of it, since we brought up my labs, it just popped into my head. I didn't know a whole lot about them, but probably the best source on that is probably some of the books that Nick Redfern has done.
There you go.
That he's probably Nick Redfern. I know he's been on Ancient Aliens and whatnot, and sometimes that show gets a bad rap because of recent seasons, whatever. Nick Redfern's books are fantastic. I'm sorry. Like, think what you want of the show, and he's been on it, whatever. Like, his books, that guy, he researches his ass off, man, honestly.
Yeah, he does.
And to what you were just talking about, like, this is, people are going to have to start coming to grips with the fact that some of the truth involved with this entire phenomenon may not be what we want to hear. And that's probably a good reason why they chose to keep some of it secret, because it's out of our control. And it may feel to some people like we're, guinea pigs, honestly, it's frightening because we can't control it. And the military doesn't like to admit to anything that they can't defend.
You're right. That's the big thing too. I forgot to mention that. And thank you. Smart play there. So check this out. We're paying taxes to our government. How would it sound for them to be like, nope, we have no clue what it is, where it's from, and we can't stop it. So they're not
Right.
going to. Thank you for pointing that out because I completely
Yeah,
forgot about
people would stop paying taxes. That's for
Yeah,
damn
no
sure.
shit. So
Can you blame them?
yeah, no
No.
doubt. Hey, one second here. Shout out to Tara, my wife. Can you bring me some more coffee? Haha. For real.
Tara, awesome. Happy to have you here. Pot of Joe.
I'm actually
For
happy.
real.
Usually Sundays we don't go live, so having
This
a
seems
couple
like a
people in the
good
chat's
day.
nice. Yeah.
And it's like it's all
I
people
thought it was
know
going to
from
be a
UFO
ghost
Twitter.
town.
Nah, man, it's not. This is too interesting. This is too,
Yeah, if you guys, and I forget stuff a lot of times. So if you ever have any questions, ask away. Sometimes I may tell you some shit that I may not supposed to be telling you, and I get in trouble after. I don't know. That's what
Better to
usually
ask
we don't
happens.
want to
for
get you in
forgiveness.
trouble, but
You know what
if it
happens usually? It's usually something like I'm doing my thing, running my mouth, just talking about stuff, and then later I get a shut the fuck up. You know, that kind of thing. You can't do that. Oh, okay, cool. All right. So
What is your personal what's your personal favorite UFO case? I mean, I don't know if you're biased towards Roswell just because.
I
but
like Roswell. No, space pancakes.
Can you elaborate?
So
I
there's
don't
a
think I've
case.
heard this one.
Oh, I'm gonna
Space?
forget the name of it. Yeah,
Is this okay.
Wisconsin, I think
know.
maybe. It was.
I think it was.
Yeah. So this is all that. This is because it reminds us how wild and wacky and weird this stuff can be. So when an airship comes out of nowhere before airships exist, in your perspective to a farmer, lands, and somebody comes out, looks just human, but motions like they need water. You go and get them water, and they take you inside, and they're cooking what looks to be pancakes. And you ask for, you kind of motion, they give them to you, that you kind of look around, you leave, and you eat one, and it shouldn't taste like a shitty pancake, and the government takes it and analyzes it, and it's just a shitty pancake with no salt. Why?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I read about it in one of Valet's books. That's where I first saw it, and I'm like, dude, what is this?
And here's the craziest part. This is why I always say control system manipulation, because some of this stuff now, are we seeing things and then getting the ideas for said things because we're seeing it, and that's the point, like airships later, right?
Right.
Or we see a craft that flies, so we don't necessarily need the technology to see that it can do something, so we try to figure out ways to do it. Now, is that a manipulation? Are they crashing on purpose? I think no, we've done some, but I think the manipulation's in play with a lot of that different stuff. Some of those cases get so different and wild. Like they talk about this. What was it on? There's a Netflix documentary, Hanger One. But if you read Pasolka's book, she talks about the healing of the dog, right? Almost like Angela. You've got Simney Van who says the shit's the devil, and I believe him. You got Chris Bledsoe that is godlike. I believe him. And then you have the perception. What's that? Yeah, his whole perception. Literally, the lady in white. He's got a date. Literally, it's almost like it's approaching him from the perspective of the Bible. I believe I met the man. He's one of the nicest men. I believe everything he has to say about it too, because again, it's so different. But Simney Van's been haunted by it so much. He's again one of the people, group of 100, and I think Bledsoe is as well. Simney Van hates it so much that he even said on Cab, he's not religious, but he has crucifixes and everything from every religion around his bed, right? And then people have taken their own lives in this group because of said subject.
It's crazy.
And then you got me, who's in between, who's out here filming them and joking around and seeing them all the time. I'm not saying, I mean, it was shitty going through it, but I'm also in a better place. So I'm like, I don't know what.
Maybe it's just perception, like Ty said. That's like low key, like a really, really powerful comment you just made, Ty. Because like, what if it's just all one thing, but it just depends on how the person decides to perceive it. Think about Virginia. The young girls they thought they saw a demon at first.
Yeah,
then the brimstone, right? It's like they did see a demon. Oh, I thought, and then the person over here says, I saw an alien. Yeah, you both saw the same thing, and you're both right. It's like it's that type of weird dichotomy.
Right.
Yeah, 100% it is. And it's hard for me with knowing the things that I know now, synchronicity and all that, to see it. It's something I don't understand to the point that, like, my first documentary I talked about earlier, the Yakima Valley stuff I've talked about. One of the reasons I learned it's a hotspot, I end up in UAP Med, where Ron, who's a professor of sociology, Ron Watson. Watson? I'm gonna mess the last name up. Anyway, you can go on UPMed and look it up. He starts talking about lights, orbs in Yakima Valley, and I read a book that he mentioned, which is by a guy who was from this area. Well, then I ended up in the documentary, and right before me in the documentary, there's a guy named Dr. Greg, and he's literally talking about the lights in Yakima Valley. None of us had even pieced it together, and I'm from Yakima with my videos of the lights in Yakima Valley, and that happened without anyone even. And that's how I learned and kept digging about it, and it made zero sense.
Yeah, I mean, because you said earlier that you think that they possibly have been here for much longer than us.
Oh yeah.
Do you think that they? I don't want to say. Do you believe in like the ancient alien theory? But do you give any credence to the fact that maybe, just maybe, these things have been not just visiting since 1947, 1945, but for much longer than even recorded history has to offer?
Oh yeah. I can tell you that. And look, it's probably not just one. So lots of people think it's multiple, and not all shit. There could be a shadow war. There's hypothesis about whatever's going on here. You know what my point being is, whatever's been here, it's always been here. Lots of it has, right? So here's an example. And I'm not saying ancient aliens is all right. What I am saying is, well, that control system shit's in play. So you've got, take the Holloman incident. I don't know if anybody knows what they look like when they came out.
Native Americans, right?
Well, Assyrian with headdresses, Egyptian looking. Yeah. Syrian looking with Egyptian looking headdresses, right?
Yeah.
And so you start taking that into play. Now, here's the cool part. If you look at a lot, there's one of the other articles we're working on too, Lonnie Zamora incident, the symbols. So a lot of these symbols, there's all kinds of cases with these symbols, and they look similar to what? A lot of times hieroglyphs in some way.
Greek even.
Or Greek. Yeah, actually, that's another one. But I'm just saying, they're not teaching these things to us per se, but maybe cargo cult, you know what a cargo cult is? We're picking shit up.
Yep.
And that's what's going on, because some of this makes, like the headdresses, the Holloman, which people that want to say it's not real. Here's the thing for you. When they went to do the documentary, it was originally released in, I think it was, what the heck's the UFO? Oh, I can't remember the name of it right now, but
past, present, and future.
Thank you. So they originally had the permission to do all of the film, all of that, what happened. Well, then they took it back. But the thing is, they didn't take all of it back. That video is of an actual craft. It looks like shit, but it's real. It's of an actual craft. And it blew everybody's mind to why. And they said they answered because there's no NHI or in it. You can't tell what it is. Doesn't matter. It's still, it happened. Hell, you have, what's the astronaut's, think of his name in a second. He was literally, not Edgar, country guy.
Oh. It's like on the tip of my tongue. I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, it'll come to me in a second. He talks about, he was there. They filmed some shit. A landing. They came in, blah, blah, blah. Never got the film back. People this happens all the time, actually. Here's something I'll point out. I'm not going to tell you specifics, but the government will take your shit, your evidence, and will not give it back. And then guess what happens? Here's what I never understood. The hearings, ain't nobody ever asked, what happened to all the Project Blue Book, Grudge, Condon? What happened to all the files? Because you don't burn shit that's not real.
Right. So Gordon Cooper? Was it Gordon Cooper?
There you go. Thank you. Cooper. Yeah.
Gordon Cooper. Gotcha.
And Cooper actually later he talks about this subject a lot.
With the what was it? The Navy, the Air Force, all of them, they'll always say, we destroyed all those files. There's a bigger crock of bullshit, then I don't know what it is, because I'm telling you that if these things are real, there's no way in hell they got rid of any of these documents. They're tucked away somewhere very safely.
Not destroyed,
very safely.
I agree.
Start connecting dots.
Look, here's another thing. Eric Davis mentioned. See, the Wilson memo. Another educated opinion. It's legit, right? He was
Most
pissed.
people, yeah.
He should have known about these programs we were already talking about earlier. So, right? Most people should know this. Eric Davis does his best to walk up to that NDA's line and talk about stuff. Same with some of these people without breaking any laws, kind of pointing shit out here and there. And imagine if there's other people that were like that, but were mocked and killed or scared or, into not talking, which there is, things like that. And that's what's super important. Greek philosophers got their knowledge from Egyptian mystery schools, things like that. Gnosticism, all of these different things. I think they're all religions. I think it's all part of the same thing.
Yeah, well, I think every religion's like got a piece of like the puzzle. Like it's all divided up, and that almost seems like by design. Delonge's kind of mentioned stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, and the commonalities between them are remarkable, right? How do civilizations? Now, I don't like the whole, well, it's coincidence. They all talk about a flood, and someone who comes after the flood to teach, all very remarkably similar. Very, very, like to the fucking detail.
Yes.
And it's like, don't tell me that. They all built the same style pyramids as well?
Randall Carlson talks about the Younger Dryas event.
Yes.
That's another one.
Which is pretty. It seems like that's becoming a lot more accepted in mainstream science now. The evidence seems to be significant enough to say that happened.
Well, that's one I don't think they want to talk about, because it doesn't even matter how advanced you are. It could all end in a fucking second.
Let me ask you this. A thought experiment. What if one of the things we interact with, it's not NHI as we know it. It's always been here, out of sight, out of mind. Let's say, for example, can only be seen by specific whatever, or because it's some form of energy, plasma, energy. And Keel talks about it in the Eighth Tower, on superhumans, stuff like that. So, hold on a second there. 1 second.
Yeah, take your time.
Sorry, my dog was going crazy on himself, and it sounded disgusting. So I was like, damn, sounded like he's having dinner over there. So I couldn't concentrate while my dog was doing that. I apologize. It's hard to talk UFOs when your dog's licking his balls.
Sounded like he was having dinner.
God.
Yeah,
I know that all too well, though. He's so nasty.
No, dude, I love when stuff like that happens in the middle of our podcast, because it's like genuine laughter. Like, I read my face.
Yeah,
funny. It's the way you said it. Like
that little turd. He's got to have he has a blankie. He can't sleep without a blankie. I'm not even. He's a Doberman. Ridiculous stuff, man. Yeah. So
look how much shit I've written. Well, I've written down a full page of notes from you.
Nice.
Dude, I'm
I didn't write this much with anyone.
3. No, yeah, this is the most notes I've ever taken. I'm on page 3 right now. Page 3.
And like I said, I'll give you guys some notes privately sometimes, Yeah. Not even a problem. I just don't want my name with some of the stuff.
That's fair. And we always respect that.
That's another thing. Do you with the recent videos, I'm sure you've seen these recent videos that came out. Astral brought up a good question. Would you rather these people get the videos vetted first, or send them out to the public to be vetted?
Who's going to vet them? The thing is this. Ain't nobody going to say, oh, I believe now, because of any videos, because they can be altered, this, that. You could say whoever you want. The government's going to be the ones that's going to have to, in some form, the president, maybe not. So, for example, when not this hearing, which we've been talking about, most people are focused on this hearing. There's another one after Congress, Burchett,
right?
That hearing. They don't give a shit about what the DOD think. You obviously, know this, right? Burchett talks about there are crash retrievals for a reason. He probably knows way more than what I know, right? So I forgot where I was going with that. I'm a little hyped up on coffee.
We were also doing a thought experiment too.
Oh yeah. So these things,
plasma energy, and all
there you go. If these things are here, for example, take the movie Nope. Sounds wild.
Yeah.
Actually, I found a little clip somewhere too of a guy who developed a camera like that could see said things, right? Whatever. Now, shadow biosphere, you can call it all kinds of different things. But if there's something here with plasma, in the book, he actually talks about if it's interacting or changing into nuts and bolts and all it would, because it's electromagnetic spectrum, the super spectrum, call it what you will. And let's call the universe some super hive mind that's connected to this, right?
Okay.
Just for this thought experiment. And anytime we're interacting with any of these things, it's all in our brain, which is connected through said and it's, so we're seeing what they want us to see at these different times. And it doesn't mean nuts and bolts can't happen, because again, when you're able to work on that low, on that, I guess you might know basically quantum realm, kind of, right? You're not creating matter. You're simply just manipulating the matter and shit that's there. So why couldn't someone that's so far advanced do some stuff like that? They can. I mean, if it's interdimensional and that's where they're coming from, hell, if it's a dimension up, they're not a god, but they can see everything at all times, all at once. Your insides, you're out. I mean, because that's when it gets into stuff I don't start understanding.
This is my wheelhouse, what you're talking about, because it's been theorized that perhaps all of reality on some level is consciousness, like everything, right?
I agree with that.
If that's the case, if there's an intelligence that is able to manipulate whatever consciousness is, whether it be an energy or like I usually call it like a field that our brains are kind of radio receivers for, you can hack that particular transmission, so to speak. And if consciousness is the underlying everything, nuts and bolts and quote unquote ethereal, they're the same thing at the end of the day. So it's like if you have a screw and then you have a glowing orb of energy, but everything's consciousness, like there is no nuts and bolts. There is no ethereal. It's just all consciousness. And that's when things, as weird as they are, begin to make a certain level of sense, actually. It's
I
just
agree.
wild. It's above what we were taught in school. Like we didn't talk about this. The closest thing was energy can't be created or destroyed. It can only be altered. And when I heard that, I was like, oh, well, that makes sense, because if we have souls and then we die, our souls don't die. I'm like, boom. Okay, cool. That makes sense.
Boom. Check that off the list.
Right. Yeah.
I also think trauma has something to do with a lot of this, because it's either a beacon, lighthouses in the dark, right? And I think Cahill even talks about, because it could be, and I'm not saying what I'm saying is either something can affect your brain in a way that activates or deactivates something that allows you to see. And maybe it's trauma, drugs, who knows? I brain damaged myself in so many ways. I don't know.
Well, think about when you're at your highest, like for instance, when my mom passed away, I was at a heightened state of something and I felt her leave the room, right? I've talked about this before. It seems like when you're in these heightened states of consciousness, you're a little like, it's like the veil kind of gets thinner. So is that the vibration of your own frequency changing, and then you're able to see things you might not be when you're in a sober mindset? I don't know. But to kind of jump that, do you think there's any connection between things, like mushrooms and DMT, and getting into these kind of settings and environments?
Absolutely. I'll tell you this too. The mushrooms, psychedelics help pull me out of some funk. Right. And I'm actually applied for some programs to go to South America to do DMT for veterans, for PTSD, actually. Cool. But I'll say that my friend, one of my best friends, Mike, who we did the podcast, it's actually about both. You guys should check it out. It's literally about DMT and UAP experiences and consciousness, right? And that's it. It bounces back and forth between both the experiences, and you start seeing commonalities and things. And that's where I kind of talk about my stuff in there. But I think it's all one and the same. That's why you can astral travel, you can remote view. Yeah. There's this super spectrum.
Yes.
That's how you do it somehow. That's just me thought experimenting, right? Something we're missing. That's how you do it. You're able to do these things and travel. Just because we have science that says this, Yeah, it does. But obviously, something else has some other science that we decided we're just going to say this is it. Because obviously, it's not.
Yeah.
It's not
And
magic.
So, real quick, that show you said your friend. Where can we find this at?
Oh, Mind Escape on YouTube.
Mind
Um,
Escape.
yeah, Mind Escape and his Patreon. If you sign up his Patreon, $7.99, you get the movie. And I'm in it for the first time, and some of my videos and stuff like that's my first one, but it's cool, and it's some good stuff.
I am
So
gonna do that.
yeah, and like I said, I'm a proponent. I live near I go to Portland because I know that one of the doctors up there has got this. His second one, they got a license for a clinic for psychedelics for veterans. He's going to try to get veterans. It wants me to come through, make sure it's okay for veterans and stuff. Because again, microdosing and macrodosing, being able to pull yourself away from yourself, which is, I'm forgetting the word for it right now, just kind of stepping out of your own body almost, right, is very important when you got trauma and things like. But specifically here, I'm not saying do it on your own, people. I'm saying I wish I could go to a doctor, but now I'm going to start being able to. You couldn't. So I was learning this shit on my own. So I think it's all intertwined. I started seeing my UAPs way before my psychedelics, but then when I started because I started reading after that, and that's when I started doing them. Then I started seeing like my world. I started seeing them everywhere.
Yeah.
I don't even really. I don't. Every now and I go, I'll go macro dose, microdose, but not not much anymore but it's good for people who need it in their head. I'll still go up there every now and again just to get away and macro dose and come home refreshed.
There's even clinical research going on with ketamine, which I find to be crazy, but because I've done ketamine recreationally.
I know people on that.
Yeah, ketamine fucks you up. Like I couldn't even walk down the stairs because all my perception was just gone. So perception of depth all of it was gone. So I bet a microdose would be awesome. Because you know what I mean? Yeah, and K-holes are definitely real.
Yeah, they are.
I seen a kid try to rip off the banister of a what's the thing around the door?
Like the frame?
The frame of the door. He tried to rip that apart in a K-hole. But if you spoon feed them sugar, it cancels it out. So if you ever go into a K-hole, just eat some sugar.
I'm gonna not do that.
I'll tell you that Christian has a point on the first question, and I'll say also his ATIP. You also have Havana syndrome in slide 9 ATIP, where it talks about influencing decision makers. That book that's coming out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, people think Havana syndrome's an absolute joke. Are you under the assumption that it's absolutely a thing?
I'll tell you that some may be third. I mean, we have the capability to do some of this, but here's what's really wild. So another after effects thing. We interviewed Travis Winterton from Skinwalker Ranch and Dr. Taylor at AlienCon.
Winterton?
Yeah. Did I say what I say? Travis?
You said you combined them. So
Thomas Winterton and Dr. Taylor. Gotcha. My apologies. I do that sometimes.
That's all right, brother.
You got the best sometimes excuse. I don't get a grip on it. But anyway, we interviewed him, and he talks. I specifically asked him about that head incident, right? And he even quoted saying, "Yeah, the government took notice. They did an investigation. An agency did. That's all he could say." So, Dr. Gary Nolan. We all know he talks about after effects, and he talked about it on the panel slightly, things like that. And he mentioned it the other day. So again, UAP Med, we're literally doing outreach to doctors, mental health professionals, just because there's nobody there to tell them, hey, this stuff's real. You don't got to take our word for it. Here's some scientists and other professionals that will tell you it is. Because how wild is it to be well enough? Like for me, for a long time, I was still going through my experience, but I had to pretend it wasn't happening, never talk about it anywhere because of, again, people know if you don't believe in it, you don't believe in it. And people just thought I was crazy, everyone around me. But I was not crazy, so I just stopped talking about it. Wow. So no one should have to deal with that shit. I couldn't even go to a doctor, even though I wanted to talk about it.
That's not cool.
I'm trying to wrap my head around that. Do you think that, for example, because you mentioned it earlier in a really nice light, do you think that maybe UFO Twitter, that type of community, is good for maybe someone like you that's out there, say, watching our show, they've got nobody to talk to. Do you think it would be good for them to maybe like reach out to someone like me or yourself, Ty, and kind of get some things off their chest? Do you think that would put them in a better place to be able to reach out?
So look, yes and no. So here's what's important. You've got, like everything, you've got to take yourself out of situations that are not okay for you mentally. And sometimes that can be bad in there. But I also say some of the most beautiful people, Emily, all these people I met from spaces. I used to hold spaces because there's no place for experiencers to tell their stories and just get that cathartic release.
Yeah.
We just listen. We don't tell them anything other than that. And that's where I kind of started doing this, because there's no place for me. And so then I was in Chupacabra spaces, and then he let me talk, made me feel included. And then I started doing my own and all these different things, right? So yes, it's a good place in that aspect because there are good people there. But again, it can get bad, like it's been lately for a while, these wars, and
weird.
I just can't, I'm not going to say shit about
bullshit.
that other than,
no, we stay out of that.
Yeah, I pull myself away from that because in my head, it takes me back to where I was. All right. And I'm also someone who used to be a piece of shit. So I don't ever point fingers at anyone, no matter how big a piece of shit. I can tell them I don't like it and just walk away. Right. That's the way
everybody
I work.
makes mistakes, right? Like there's back and forth that goes on. But, you know, at the end of the day, none of us are perfect.
And I'll tell you that being said, I used to joke that I tell you, it's a great place to go to get information, but I sure as hell wouldn't take my family there.
Right.
You know, because it can get crazy at times. So it's a dual thing. But again, there's a reason I don't do as much on, I limit myself to particular spaces for a reason. I'm not dogging the way anyone runs them. The reason I do my spaces the way I do them, particular roles, I'm a stickler. I make them interview and stickler. I want people to learn, listen, no messing around, no toxic shit, that kind of stuff, is because a lot of people are there to tell their story or listen or learn. And then when we start getting into that other behavior, it turns people off from the subject, you know, that we need for disclosure. So when you're up there talking about trans people or doing bad things, they think that's all of us. You're crazy UFO people, and that's not. So I make it a point, just like Dr. Nolan talks about, to say, hey, you know what? When I talk to people, I give them the right information to say things the right way. I try to represent a particular, just the way I normally am, good vibe person, try to carry that over. I can disagree with you and just walk away. Even if you say some really, it takes a lot to make me, because I get it. I understand people can have bad days, say things they don't mean. So I don't pile on with people either. And like I said, all these people, Logan, Emily, they were literally every day screen. I'd wake up, hang out with them all day long in spaces. I had no one else to talk about this shit with. This was at the start. So these are all great. These are my family. So
that's nice.
Yeah.
Man. And I think that I can speak for Ty and Astral and everybody else that we're really good friends with on UFO Twitter, that we kind of think like you do here. You know, we don't want toxicity. That's not, I mean, come on, we're all adults, right? Like we want to just know what's going on. We want to learn about the universe. We want to know our place in the universe. We want to know what happens when we leave this life, because we all have to experience that at some point. Like this is one big classroom, essentially.
Yeah. And it is. And I do it this way too. So I can immediately shut off half the people that want to learn, listen, and make them go the other direction by taking a stance either which way.
Yeah.
My rooms, when I talk, no politics, there's a reason. None of these discussions, because you can have personal asides and things. The problem is when you mix them, people get like they get in politics these days, right? And so I try to give people their space on it and understand, while at the same time keeping my message on point, because I don't got shit else to do but research this topic. And if I think there's bad shit in the topic, like there's speakers and there's stuff that information, what am I going to do about it? I can bitch about it, or I can do what you guys do, make content and put my message out there as positive as I possibly can. Because again, I don't want people immediately thinking, oh, it's this or this, because that's not what it's about. This is way bigger than America, politics, vaccines, so much bigger, right?
Yeah.
This is literally like meeting God, in my opinion, which blows my mind.
Yeah. No, you're right.
Like, did you see what the Space Force general said the other day?
I did.
Everyone's been talking about it. You know, he was talking about how this is not a thing that resides inside the border of the United States. This is a global situation that we're dealing with here.
Strong
Let
statement
me ask
from
you
him.
this. That being said, that's another worry. You were talked about the Air Force, why the government wouldn't want this out. Well, when America's the most powerful nation in the world, military does all these reasons, right?
Right.
And if it's no longer a America take care of this thing, it's now a world thing, that starts pulling the world government, like that starts making it, they're not the authority. They're not the ones in charge.
Right.
Takes it out of their hands, also gives them, they may learn more about this than us and then have this kind of equipment. It's always going to be about, I'm a patriot, America, keeping this experiment going. So the first thing's that at the top. So you got to remember that. But there are people, we have allies that are within the government for a fact that are working. So you got two sides, whatever you want to call them elite. And then you got Lou, Jay, and that group, right? There's other people.
Right.
They want this out and they're trying. And the problem is we got so toxic, made people second guess that shit. So I'm trying to be the opposite of that.
Do you think
Same
that
here.
if Hillary Clinton became president, that we would have already been further down the road? With all that we learned from the Russian DNC hacks and everything?
I think that everyone thinks they're going to be the one until they see the implications and they're sat down and explained. Shit, Mustache John Lucas just posted the other day talking about where Simivan says that when he was explaining the phenomenon and shown pictures, he was pretty upset for days, right? Some stuff like that along those lines.
I've heard that type of comment many times.
So
that's a pretty fucking wild thing to think about. There was the other guy. I don't know if it's the same guy that we're talking about, but the one that went through the briefings and he said he cried for weeks.
The FBI guy, right?
Yeah, he cried for weeks because he has a daughter that has to grow up in this world.
Yeah, and then also I think it was
the
Eisenhower.
Shit out of me.
Was it Eisenhower? One of the presidents was upset too afterwards.
Carter.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, they said that he cried, and it's been theorized that it's because of his religious background. He's a man of faith. That he had to confront some things that were very personal to him. Makes you wonder.
It does make you wonder. It does. But Shane, listen, we would love to have you back on the show sometime soon. I don't want to keep you too long.
No, you're all right, guys. I appreciate it having me. Thank you. Oh, one more shout out, guys. Make sure I say this.
Go ahead.
Sure.
So one of the things I'm starting a project. It's going to be Old Vets UAP Symposium on YouTube. And Mariah and my friend Ryan from UFO Twitter, they're going to be basically running it. It's going to be content, just me talking about this kind of stuff and not live stuff, kind of like this, but we're going to have discussions of cases, all these different things. But the cool part is I'm also looking for, if you're a budding screenwriter, script writer, and you want to take part, reach out. We're going to just do stuff like that to put this message out there and reach out. And what we'll do is always get credit, be a part of it. And we're just trying to basically anything involved in this subject. We want to put it out there non-sensationalized so people watch it and just keep doing the positive shit you guys we're doing. So keep it out there.
Yeah, man. Consider us reached out.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. I'm not even joking. So reach out and we'll do this.
Everyone.
All right, right on.
We want to create a big brother and sisterhood.
Yeah, stay for a minute after the outro and let's talk for a minute. We do want to say thank you to everyone who showed up today and anyone who's going to be watching in the future. I want to go back and say that, we thank you. But again, like we talked about in the beginning of the show, this stuff doesn't pay well. So if you can, and you want to help support the show, whether that's from a super chat or doing something like joining our membership, you get early access to interviews that we do. Like for instance, I'll be interviewing Kathleen Martin tomorrow. So all the members will be able to watch me record that show, including all the fuck ups that I'll most likely have. Tom won't be there, but because he's going to be working. But like I said, you'll get to see that show almost 7-8 days early. So that's the stuff we've been doing. And then when we get to a certain number of members, we'll start doing members only content, giveaways, and all that stuff. So like I said, all the links are in the description below for Shane, for Tom, and for our show. So thank you guys so much for being here. And, let's keep on this path together and inquire about the anomalous together.